It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, November 22nd, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content. Has a lot of thanks to give this Flyers Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I have a few.
Yeah, we will get into that and preview tonight's matchup against the New York Islanders, plus your mailbag questions, all on today's show.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here, as always, with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with every winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit fanduel.com/locked on to get started. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, Marc Staal is officially off IR now, and Tort said it would be a game time decision or this morning if Staal is going to play versus the Islanders. Seems like he will, though.
He's playing. It's no game time decision. He's playing. We all know he's playing.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't think he could resist it. There won't be any other lineup changes from the last game, which means that Morgan Frost is still out of the lineup and Ryan Poehling is still up on that third line with Cates down on the fourth line.
Right, and apparently it's going to switch at some point because Torts wants to put Cates in more offensive situations, but I contend you want to put him in a more offensive situation, take him out of the center spot, and that would do that. But he's not doing that, so at some point they'll make this switch. And Morgan Frost is now being held to a standard that none of the other guys on the team are being held to. So basically, he's only allowed to play top six or nothing else. And I don't think it's fair. I understand the theorizing behind that, but if you have an opening on your third line, then you put him on your third line. He would rather play than not play. He would rather develop than not develop, and he would rather, accrue, an NHL career to eventually be traded than to not play at all. And yet these things don't seem possible, at least in the short term.
Yeah, I feel like we're just in this no-win situation here because, at least the two of us want to see Morgan Frost back
Right.
in the
And a lot
lineup.
of fans. We're not the only ones. There's fans that are, wanting to see that. And, every couple of days the reporters ask. I mean, and there's a reason because we all see that there's talent in this player. He is only, 23, 24, something like that. And there's talent in this player at the center position. And it's kind of like, okay, like these other centers that we're talking about don't necessarily have the same center upside all around. Like Cates is a great defensive center, but his offense is going to be better on the wing. Frost is a natural center.
Right.
And if he's just going to take an extra year and a half to develop, the Flyers are probably going to miss out on that.
Yeah, and that happens sometimes, and teams make choices, and it
Yep.
seems like this is where the choice has been made, but who knows? Maybe things
I
will
mean,
change
and we're not
around.
talking about a guy that had only like 25 points last year. He had 46 points.
Right.
So conceivably, if you let him do the same things, he would have 40-something points again, which I think would be around his NHL average every year. Meaning, and then some years will be more, maybe some years would be a few less. But he's not allowed to do that because the coach is holding him to this standard.
We shall see. Meanwhile, tonight, the Flyers are facing the Islanders for the first of two games in 1 week. Now, most recently, the Islanders did win a game against Calgary in a shootout 5-4. Prior to that 7-game losing streak, they are 6-5, seventh in the Metro. But even though they just won, is Lane Lambert still on the hot seat here?
He's still on the hot seat. They're really the epitome of NHL mediocrity by the record, by a lot of the different things. Not to say Sorokin. I mean, Sorokin's terrific, but everything else is pretty mediocre about this team.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to me because not only did they do basically nothing in the off season, they have not had a first round pick since Simon Holstrom in 2019,
Yeah.
who, to be fair, is on their top line.
Hmm.
So, he's developing. Their first rounder from 2018 is on the third line, which is Wallstrom.
Who's not
Interesting.
developing really.
He's not as much, and if you do a comparison between him and Joel Farabee, who was picked, like, 3 or 4 spots later than Wallstrom in that draft, like, there's no comparison there
No.
as far as development. Farabee has turned out to be a much better player.
And I don't think it's Wallstrom's fault. I do think there's some development issues that happened in New York that didn't allow him to play to his strengths, and so now I think he's kind of lost in this sauce, and I don't know if he'll get out of it.
Yeah, I just feel like there hasn't been that right kinda atmosphere there, and the Islanders under Lou Lamoriello have just been mostly assigned guys to get better team, and, like, these guys are just not gelling well and
No,
or not producing in a way. You look at Bo Horvat, really hasn't stood out tremendously since he joined the
he was never
Islanders.
going to be that. He was having a career year, and we most of us recognize that.
Yeah.
So knowing that they paid him at that mark and maybe even a little more, and you're never going to get equal production for that. Now, if you want to say he's an intangibles guy and he's great in the room, all those things are true. But as far as actual production, they're not gonna they're not gonna get that production again that he had that 1 year. That's not his normal year.
No, and, you look at Kyle Palmieri, he's got 4 goals on the season
He hasn't
so
played a
far.
lot, so I'll give him a little pass.
Yeah, I guess, but it's just like, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess, like, Noah Dobson
Dobson's having
is
a great year. He is,
is
and
having a good year. Barzal is not really maybe matching expectations, but he's playing well.
he's playing well. I still don't think they've used him right really for 2 years
Yeah,
now. So okay, but yes, he's at least playing well. But
yeah,
there's a
I
lot
mean,
of
but
guys that aren't like Pajot. No,
mm-mm,
Brock Nelson's really, really good. Like Brock Nelson scores goals. Anders Lee is never going to meet the contract that he's at. There's a lot
no.
of guys like that. They have a lot of 5, 6 million guys that you can't trade because they're either getting older or they have a lot of term. They finally had, removed Josh Bailey, and you got 3 more guys like that potentially down the road or now.
Yeah, and this season they've just been a team that keeps games close, but then they blow leads all the time as well.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to win if you do that and you keep all your games close and you have terrible third periods, which they seem to have been doing.
They like playing that, Lou Lamoriello will talk about the differential, and he wants to be on the right side of the differential. And if they are, he feels like they're right in the race. And there's some sense in that, but I think the NHL's changed to the point now where that's not a definite anymore.
Right. I think so too. And you look at the matchups, and I know there's like a few guys on the Islanders that always seem to play well against the Flyers, like Cizikas and Clutterbuck. Like their
Yeah.
fourth line always seems to have
Zizekas
success.
will always do well against the Flyers.
Yeah, yeah, it's like clockwork. Now, I am interested to see what the current Flyers fourth line does in terms of matching up against
Right.
them. I think it'll be a little different this time around,
Sure.
but the Islanders also have a couple defensemen that have bitten the Flyers in the past. Like Pulak always seems to play well. Pelech always seems to play well. And with Pelech and Dobson, I think that is a real solid top pair there.
It is a solid top pair, and you definitely have to watch Dobson, especially on the offensive side of things. No question about it. And they're fast, like they are. They're very fast for defensemen too. So that's their one strength is that top pairing is a strength.
Yeah, I think Flyers are gonna have to score 3 goals to win this one, I
Yeah,
think.
you have to. You're going to struggle to get 3 on Sorokin, most likely.
Yeah, that's gonna be the tough part, I think, is, just Sorokin, I think, is the one excellent part of this team.
And even scoring first, the Flyers have this great record scoring first. It's going to be hard to get that first goal against the Islanders. Like you might have to go 2 periods or a period and a half before you get that goal if it happens. So it's a little different. I think it's going to be a little different kind of game.
Yeah, I think so. All right, we'll see how that one goes. I will be there in person, so you can follow me on the socials to keep track of that. In the meantime, we've got your mailbag questions on roster changes with Staal back. We've got trade deadline. Is the strategy changing? We're going to talk about a bunch of those things coming up next. You know that feeling when your favorite Flyers player scores a hat trick? If you want to get that feeling and win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. As the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. Fans can also play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, and college football on Sleeper, and entries can be made in under a minute with elite players like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, and Austin Matthews, plus the new kids like Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli. All you need to do is make more or less picks on stats for these stars. You choose from stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. To win that 100 times bet on Sleeper, you got to correctly predict the outcome of 8 players' stats. You heard me. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Maybe on the Black Friday game, take the Dolphins, no matter what the spread is. I think the Jets are going to have trouble that game. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on and get into the action this NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
The Flyers play the Islanders at 7:30 p.m. tonight, as we know. Catch every second of the Flyers' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search for Flyers. Just a reminder, there's no show for the Thanksgiving holiday tomorrow. We'll be back Friday morning with a show drop and then back next week. For your mailbag questions, AQN 1976 on YouTube had a really good comment that kind of ended up with this question. At the beginning of the season, I would prefer to get max value for our top players at the trade deadline. Now I'm not so sure that is the move anymore with them playing so well. Thoughts?
Well, my thought is you got time. On this one, nobody's getting traded even in the next month. It's hard, cap's tight. So you've got a good, couple of months here to see if they could stay at this pace. If they stay at this pace, then maybe there's an organizational decision to be made. But still, there's still players you could trade, still bring up some youngsters to plug in, hope you can make the playoffs and still advance for the future. There's still a way to do that, even if they were playing above, what your expectations are. And that's the way I would go.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think there are some older players that just because of the nature of time being what it is, that when the Flyers are at their peak, these guys will be beyond their peak and it just won't work from a timing perspective. So you
Right.
want to get max value for them now.
Right.
But I think like Travis Konechny, maybe that's a player where you would end up changing your mind if the
Right. You
Flyers.
might pull back on Konechny,
Mhm.
but you still trade Atkinson.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's kind of where I'm at. James wants to know, would Morgan Frost benefit from AHL time?
No. No, because if he goes to the AHL, we know what he could do in the AHL. He needs to play at the NHL. He's earned that NHL time. I mean, in the end, if you're telling me he's going to get scratched for 7 games in a row, then sure, AHL time will benefit him. But otherwise, it really wouldn't.
Yeah, I agree. I think that he's an NHL player, and even just to get him ice time, I mean, everybody knows who he is as a player right now. So I just don't think that would do any good. Plus, I bet he would get snapped up on waivers.
Yeah, I haven't looked to see if he's waiver exempt. That's a good point.
Yeah, I'm not sure there. I'd have to double check. He's got like a weird
He
RFA
does,
status.
so I'm not sure.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Tyler sent us an email with a whole bunch of really good comments, but had one particular thread with a question about who will get sent down on D with Staal back.
Uh, Good question. I think most likely it's Belpedio. I think
Yeah,
he's the most likely to be sent down.
I'm not sure they're going to send anybody down back because they were able to get Sandstrom through
Hmm.
waivers, and he's on the Phantoms now. They have that extra roster spot, so they don't have to send anybody down.
They
At
don't.
Yeah, we're at 22 roster spots right now, and even if Risto comes back, they've got not only do they have a spot for him, but they have cap space for him.
Yeah, they don't. But like, let's say Belpedio sits for 3 or 4 games, he is better off playing.
Right.
And the Phantoms could use him. Like that's the other. That's why I think it'll be him because the Phantoms could actually use him. Like he's very valuable to the Phantoms.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see what the Flyers end up doing because, like I
Yeah,
said, they have this space, and Torts
they
seems to
do.
like Belpedio. Are they gonna have 8 defensemen on the roster?
Yeah, it just seems silly.
It does, but you
I
never
know.
know.
Hey, look, I get it.
Ryan had a good comment over on YouTube related to our suggestion to add NHL games on Thanksgiving. Doesn't the NBA also play on Thanksgiving every year?
Yeah, I think again the NHL should be playing on Thanksgiving. We've seen a lot of people tweet about it. It makes sense. The NBA doesn't play on Thanksgiving. They don't want to go up against the NFL, so they don't have games. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't. You have a whole country of fans that love your game that are forced to watch American football. And I bet you, if you gave them the choice of watching American football or a good hockey matchup, at least one, maybe even two, they're probably going to watch that. So I think it's something that makes a lot of sense and should happen in the future. But will it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it makes sense too. Again, it's just a Thursday for Canada. Why not give them a couple of hockey games, make a thing of it? And whatever Americans aren't super into football, maybe they're into hockey,
That's it. That's the tagline.
watch.
Let's make a thing of it.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the marketing guru here. But I think that yeah, I'm still all for it as well. Kevin asked us, since we mentioned at the tail end of the show the other day, if that Thanksgiving is all about the side dishes. So, what is your favorite side dish on Thanksgiving?
It's interesting. Look, like when I was down south, I certainly appreciated like the um, green bean casserole. That was probably in the '80s, the first time I ever had it with like the fried
Ah,
onions and stuff.
the
But that's not my favorite.
GBC.
That's not my favorite, but it's just something that I was introduced to then. Honestly, I'm pretty simple. It's mashed potatoes with or without gravy, with butter, some nice whipped mashed potatoes. Like you can't beat it.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I definitely liked the sweet potato with the marshmallows on
Yeah,
top
we did
because
that
I
when I was a
just
kid too, and I kind of grew out of it that way. With
yeah.
maple syrup on it, okay.
Yeah, and there's also kind of blends I've seen where you add, like, pineapple in with the mashed potato. It sounds weird, but it tastes so
I guess
good.
because they're both sort of stringy and have the same
Yeah,
similar texture, it might work out.
it does, and so you add syrup and the
Oh, you do?
pineapple and it
Okay. All right.
mhm. Yeah, and so I like it much better that way. I just really like a good stuffing that's not
Okay.
stovetop. I
Right.
like,
Now, my whole
a real
family
stuffing.
loves stovetop, and I don't mind it, so I would eat it. I kind of lean towards the cornbread kind of stuffing.
Yeah,
That's you
yeah.
want to put cornbread and canned cranberries and stuff like that in there. I'll eat it.
Same, Same. Yeah, and I like a good, tart, real cranberry sauce that isn't the canned stuff.
Right, not the can, in the jar, all the way.
Yeah, yeah, all of that is very good. Well, I'm now hungry again. This show is just constantly making me hungry. We've got the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, so we are going to talk about what we are thankful for this Flyers Thanksgiving season, and we will do that coming up next. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Have you ever wondered why you struggle sometimes? Therapy can help you figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of against yourself. It's super helpful for determining how to make decisions more effectively. You can learn positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It's not just for those who've experienced major trauma or a specific incident, anyone can benefit. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a little questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist, and they'll let you switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnhl today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNHL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel over on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On from around all the sports, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe. So, Russ, I am pretty thankful this holiday season for some things around hockey and the Flyers. And I think the first thing of which is that the Flyers have been a lot of fun so far this season. They've surprised us in a lot of ways. They've made it really interesting. I just think from an analytical standpoint these days in like what this team is doing and the choices they're making, it's been a lot of fun to talk about, a lot of good questions coming out of it. So I am very appreciative of the Flyers this season so far.
Yeah, they're less. Um, I don't want to say they're less stressful because I don't think that's true. I think they're less frustrating though to talk
Yeah.
about, and I think that does help with the kind of coverage we could give, and we're not like harping on certain things all the time, every moment. So I do think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, Anything you're particularly thankful for?
Yeah, I'm thankful for the amount of prospects that they do have. Maybe not enough of them play in the lineup, but it gives me a opportunity to track them at the NHL level. A lot of these guys I've been tracking since pre-draft, and so I do get great enjoyment from Flyers and other prospects around the league when they really develop. It's fun for me to see and see how they develop from year to year to year, and so I'm always thankful for that.
Yeah, speaking of which, I am very thankful for the Flyers' top prospects not with the Flyers yet, that are playing in other places. We've got Matvey Michkov, of course. He's got 24 points in 25 games since his move over to Sochi, just having a tremendous season there so far. 11 goals, 13 assists. Really happy to see that. We've got Cutter Gauthier, who's got 15 points in 12 games so far at Boston College. And then our good old London Knights boys. Denver Barkey is seventh in points in the OHL this season. He's got 13 goals and 15 assists in 21 games. Oliver Bonk, 19 points in 21 games. He's 11th in defenseman in the OHL so far. Really glad to see those two are having a good season as well.
Yeah, I'm thankful for all of them. They're the high end guys, and I still follow the Devin Kaplans and others as well. Uh, the more the prospects, the merrier. And at least now the Flyers have a fair amount of A and B prospects that does make it more fun for me to watch and track and eventually rank.
Yeah, I think so. Also on my list is Travis Konechny, and I think that not only is he having a really good season so far and his scoring has been consistent, and that's where when he gets into these streaks of not scoring, he gets frustrated and it's kind of this circuitous loop. he is not seeming to run into that so far this season. So I'm really happy for that. And when Travis Konechny is playing well, other Flyers play well around him. We get that benefit. Plus, he gets a little extra chirpy and snarky and fun. And that just adds to the enjoyment of having Travis Konechny on the team for me.
Yeah, he's the catalyst for this team still, even with Couturier back and Atkinson back. He's still the catalyst. He was always a catalyst, even pre-draft when he played with the 67s. Just a fun guy to watch. I just was going through a bunch of older stuff because now that I have a new website, NHLDraftBuzz.com, I'm looking for, like, I just posted Sean Couturier's draft video on my YouTube. So if you look for Russ Cohen, I did just post that. So I'm looking for those things, and I just found a video of Travis Konechny after his first goal as a Flyer.
Oh,
Yeah, and so those kinds of things, I get that same response. Maybe not exactly that same, but similar happy response, and always fun to watch that and the excitement. And then you fast forward to now, and and he's having a good career. So I always enjoy that.
yeah, and, that draft pick of Travis Konechny, I think that, we weren't really sure what the Flyers were gonna do with that pick at the time, and, when they picked him, I think we were all just kinda like, "Oh, like, this kid has some promise," like, really excited about his development, and so it's been really wonderful to see him grow and to turn into a leader on this team.
Yeah, I was sure of two things when he was drafted. One, that he'd be a good fit for the market and a good player, and two, he wasn't going to be a center. Like, I just knew that. Like, a lot of guys get listed, we've talked about it, as centers for drafts,
Right.
and I just knew the way he played, there's no way this guy's going to be a center. And it's better that he's not. He's a way better scorer that he's not, not being a center.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I almost forgot that he was listed as a center. That's how
Yeah,
long ago it feels
I
since
know.
he was drafted by the Flyers.
Well,
Anything
even
else on your
Couturier's 2011, man. That's a while ago.
Oh, yeah, time is flying. Anything else on your thankful for list, Russ?
I'm actually thankful for the Wells Fargo Center because we all have these fears of getting RSV or COVID or whatever you want to call it. And I know they had invested heavily, and they were one of the first to do it in their circulation of the air system there. And I kind of feel a little safer there than I do in some other arenas, to be honest, just because of that. And so for that, I'm thankful. It takes like one thing away from me, one more less thing to worry about in this world. So I'm thankful for that.
Well, I guess we could all use some less worrying in this world. Yeah, I am also thankful for the Phantoms this year. I think that
Hmm.
so far, they're not quite up to the level in the standings that I would like to see them right now, but there's some really good prospect development happening there. And the other thing too is that I really feel like Ian LePerrier is growing into this head coaching role there in a way that it just wasn't when he first started. And I just really feel like he's gaining a lot of perspective. And I think he's really learning from his experience there and, knows how to really push the players' buttons in a way that he didn't before. And he knows how to put combinations of guys together that are going to work better together, whether it's on the forward lines or even with some of the defensive pairing moves. And I know he's got assistants that handle some of this stuff to a degree, but ultimately he's the head coach and the buck stops with him. And I just really think that he has taken some steps forward as a head coach, which is really wonderful to see as well.
Yeah, I feel like you're right there, and I'm also thankful for Swedish Fish because it's just a very consistent can, very consistent in its taste, and so yeah, I don't eat them every day, but when I do, I'm thankful.
Yeah, maybe there's still some candy corn left over from Halloween on sale I can pick up for the holiday as well because I like candy corn. Anyway, that will do it for today's show. We will be back Friday where we will recap this game tonight versus the Islanders and talk about the Black Friday Flyers versus Rangers matchup. That's going to be a doozy, I bet. Just a reminder, the Flyers do play the Islanders tonight at 7:30. You can catch every second of the Flyers hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search for Flyers. And if you want your mailbag question answered on the show, like we did today, you can send them to us via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email them to us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on YouTube. I am Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great holiday, everyone.